A will is such an important document. When we discussed antenuptial contracts, we said that the matrimonial property system is the first step in actually planning your estate. A will is unfortunately the last step. So it is something that we sometimes choose not to think of, but it is not something that we should leave unattended to. A will is the document where you stipulate what should happen to your assets after your death. So this is a directive to what we call the executor of your estate, which is appointed by the master, to enable that executor to wind up your estate and distribute your assets according to your last wishes. A will must be in writing. It must be signed in the presence of two witnesses. Those witnesses should not be beneficiaries in your will. So the first thing to mention here is that it's important to contact your attorney to ensure that your will is properly drafted. We have a Wills Act in South Africa that determines the requirements to have a valid will executed. If you don't comply with those requirements, your will could be invalid without you even knowing it. If you die without a will, we call it an intestate estate, which means that the rules of the Intestate Succession Act will apply. So if you have a valid will, the will will tell us what should happen with your assets after your death. If you don't have a will, other rules according to the Intestate Succession Act will apply. Now, the Intestate Succession Act stipulates that if you pass away with a wife and children, your estate must be distributed as follows. First of all, we check for marital status. If you were married to your spouse in community of property, your wife must automatically first receive 1/2 of the joint estate, and the balance must then be distributed according to the Intestate Succession Act. If the marriage was one out of community of property, that 1/2 share does not apply because it was your separate estate. And we then immediately look at the rules according to the Intestate Succession Act. Now, this act stipulates that the wife must get what we call a child's share, or 125,000 rands of the value of your estate, whichever is the greater. A child's share is calculated as follows. If there were 3 children born from that marriage, a child's share would be the amount of children plus 1. In other words, the wife would be entitled to a 1/4 share of the husband's estate, and the balance 3/4 must be distributed amongst the children. So that is a child share. If that 1/4 share is less than 125,000 rands, the wife must first get 125,000 rands, and the balance will then be distributed amongst the children, because we've said that it's a child share or 125,000, whichever is the greater. Remember, this is only where the husband passed away without a will. If the husband had a will and the will directed otherwise, then obviously those wishes will be followed.